I'm a night shift nurse at a busy urban hospital. A few nights ago, something strange happened. I had just returned to work after a few weeks off. I was eager to jump back into my routine. The hospital looked the same. Long, bright corridors and empty waiting rooms. Felt lonely, and maybe the lack of sleep made me uneasy. I can't stop thinking about what happened. First, everything was quiet. I checked on patients and stocked supplies like I always did. I thought about why I loved my job. I always felt useful here, especially after everything I had gone through. But then things changed. On my second night back, I saw a man outside near the entrance. He wore scrubs that didn't look like ours. He just stood there, staring right at me as I left after my shift. My heart raced as I hurried to my car. A knot of unease twisted in my stomach. I convinced myself I was imagining things, but I just couldn't shake that feeling. The nights dragged on and I kept seeing him. He stayed far enough away, like a shadow. I tried to ignore it. Was my sleep-deprived mind playing tricks? Maybe it was just a fellow nurse? I wasn't so sure. I started feeling paranoid. I thought someone was watching me all the time. My hands shook each time I glanced toward the entrance. Then the messages started. My phone buzzed while I was in a quiet patient room. I opened a text from an unknown number. The message contained personal details about my life. How could someone know all that? I felt cold all over. I quickly glanced around the empty room. Was I really being stalked? Every time I thought about the man, bile rose in my throat. I didn't want to feel this way. During a slow shift later, I found something tucked into a patient's chart. It was a note. The message chilled me to my core. It had my name, details about me, and mentioned the man. I felt dizzy. My head spun with questions. Who was he? What did he want? Was he even real? I tried to convince myself I was overreacting. Exhaustion was messing with my head. But the feeling grew. I refused to leave the floor alone. I checked behind me every couple of minutes. I had to know if he was out there. Was he really watching me? I felt like I was losing my mind. Then I saw him standing at the end of the hallway. He stared at me expressionless. A rush of fear hit me. I wanted to scream, but the silence in the hospital swallowed it. My breath caught in my throat. I heard him say softly, "Emily, why are you afraid?" I turned to run, but my feet felt heavy. Now I'm not sure what is real anymore. Some nights, I still hear that voice echo in my mind. I don't think I'll ever be the same. I clocked in, but my mind still raced from the events of the past few nights. I felt like I was running on fumes, and the echo of the man's voice rang in my ears. "Emily, why are you afraid?" I pushed the lingering thoughts away. Tonight, I needed to focus on my patients. The shift started slowly, but I felt the tension in the air. I was hyper-aware of every sound. The dull beeping of monitors, the shuffle of nurses' shoes against the linoleum, and the whispered conversations that seemed amplified in the stillness. I moved through the wards, checking on my patients, but the fear settled heavily in my chest. I felt like I was on a knife's edge. Midway through the night, I got a text message again. It was the same unknown number. My heart raced as I opened it. This time it was a picture. It took a moment for me to process it. It was taken at the nurse's station. I could see the clipboard ID left there hours earlier. Panic shot through me. Someone was watching me. I was in danger. I looked around the empty hallway, feeling the shadows crowding in. I glanced towards the entrance, and there he was. The man stood just like before, still staring. My breath caught in my throat, but I didn't run this time. Couldn't. I needed to know. I took a step forward. As I inched closer, my legs felt heavy, but I forced myself to continue. I wanted answers. I needed to confront this creeping nightmare. The fluorescent lights flickered above me, casting strange shadows along the walls. I wanted to scream, but I kept moving. He had to answer for what he did. As I approached, his expression remained blank. "Who are you?" I managed to say, my voice trembling. "What do you want from me?" His gaze locked onto mine, and for a moment, everything seemed to fade around us. "You're not safe here, Emily," he said, his voice low and raspy. "They don't see what I see." I felt the world tilt beneath me. My pulse thrummed in my ears. What are you talking about? My thoughts raced. What did I not see? I glanced down the corridor, half expecting someone else to emerge from the shadows. Suddenly, with a sharp movement, he turned and sprinted down the hall. Wait, I shouted, and without thinking, I followed him. I sprinted after him, heart pounding. We turned corner after corner, the silence shattered by the thud of our footsteps. Then everything changed. I rounded another hall and skidded to a stop. My breath caught. He wasn't there. Felt impossibly quiet. Had I lost him? Panic surged through me. He couldn't just vanish. I felt a chill creep down my spine. That's when I noticed something on the floor. A small flash of white. My stomach dropped. It was another note folded neatly. I hesitated, but curiosity got the better of me. Picked it up and opened it. My hands trembled as I read the words. If you want to know the truth, meet me where the dead sleep. My heart raced. I had to go there. But where exactly? Felt like a trap, but my mind spun with possibilities. Whatever lay ahead, I knew I had to find out. I needed answers. As I walked back toward my station, dread settled in my stomach. I had to choose whether I would heed the call or ignore it. But deep down, I knew there was no avoiding it. The truth was waiting, and whether I liked it or not, I was getting closer. I took a deep breath and decided I couldn't keep pretending everything was normal. I grabbed my phone and sent a quick text to my supervisor, explaining I needed a moment at the nurse's station. I slipped out of the room, my heart racing. As I made my way through the dimly lit halls, I felt the eyes of the hospital weighing on me. Shadows danced around the corners, and the beeping monitors faded into the background as the note replayed in my mind. Where the dead sleep. It had to be the morgue. I hesitated at the entrance of the morgue, a chill creeping over me. The door felt heavy as I pushed it open, a creaking sound echoing in the stillness. Inside, the cold air wrapped around me, sending a shiver down my spine. I scanned the room cautiously, wondering if he would be waiting there. I pulled my phone out, the screen casting a dim light over the morgue. I stepped forward and stopped in front of the refrigerated drawers. This was where the dead truly slept. My fingers trembled as I considered what I might find. Suddenly, a noise pierced the silence. A soft scrape came from the far corner. I turned, my heart thumping against my chest. "Hello?" I called out, but my voice wavered. There was no response. I stepped back, feeling a wave of dread wash over me. Was he hiding? Was this all a trick? Then I saw it. A figure stepped out from behind a curtain, cloaked in shadows. My breath caught in my throat as recognition hit me. It was the man who'd been stalking me. I should have felt fear, but instead anger surged. "What do you want?" I shouted. He moved closer, his expression unchanging. "You shouldn't have come here. I told you you're not safe." "Then help me," I pleaded, my voice cracking. "What do you know?" His eyes flickered with something. Was it concern or fear? "They're watching," he said, glancing around the room. "You need to trust me. If you don't, you'll regret it." I shook my head, confusion knotting my stomach. "Trust you? You're the one who has been stalking me. I'm trying to protect you," he shouted, his voice rising. "You don't understand the danger because you're too far inside. The hospital, it hides secrets, Emily. The patients aren't the only ones who come here to die." My skin prickled. What did he mean? Before I could respond, a loud crash echoed through the morgue. We both jumped, and the lights flickered ominously. I felt my heart race as my instinct screamed at me to escape. "Run!" he yelled, pushing me toward the door. I bolted, my legs moving before my brain could catch up. I dashed out of the morgue and back into the familiar hallway, gasping for breath. But I didn't stop. Couldn't. I could hear footsteps behind me. He was coming too. I didn't even look back to see if he was right behind me. I turned corners wildly, desperate to lose whoever was pursuing me. Suddenly, I collided with someone. I stumbled back, scrambling to regain my footing. My heart raced as I looked up, expecting to find the man. But it wasn't him. It was someone else. Someone I didn't recognize. dressed in dark clothing, a sinister smile creeping across their face. The chill in the air told me I was far from safe. Nowhere to run, they said, stepping closer. And suddenly, that urge to know the truth felt like a distant memory. All I wanted was to survive. I backed away slowly, my instincts screaming at me to get out. The figure loomed closer, the smile widening, revealing something unnatural. My mind raced, searching for an escape route, but I felt trapped in this nightmare. "Who are you?" I stammered, shaking slightly. "What do you want?" His laughter echoed off the sterile walls, chilling my bones. "You're asking the wrong questions, Emily." His voice was smooth, almost mocking. "Why are you still here? Haven T, you understood? This isn't just a hospital." I turned to flee, but he lunged forward, grabbing my arm with surprising strength. I twisted free, fueled by panic, and dashed through the maze of corridors. I could hear footsteps echoing behind me, not just his but others, different shoes striking the ground in rhythm. I burst into a nearby supply room, turning wildly to find a place to hide. There was a cabinet tucked in the corner. I quickly shoved myself inside, pulling the door shut just in time. My heart raced so loudly I was certain they could hear it. I held my breath as the footsteps neared, stopping outside the room. I could hear whispers, their words low enough that I couldn't quite make them out. My mind was racing. Were they looking for me? What did they want? The door creaked open, and a pair of shoes stepped inside. I squinted through the narrow gap in the cabinet, my chest tightening with fear. I couldn't see their face, but there was another presence. Someone else was there with him. "Check the next room," the man demanded, his voice low and steady. "She has to be here somewhere." I felt a wave of terror wash over me. They were searching for me. But why? What was I to them? I could barely hear the response, just whispers bouncing off the walls. I couldn't stay hidden for much longer. Just as I gathered myself to make a move, the door creaked again, and a third figure slipped into the room, their presence heavy with authority. "What are you doing here?" a woman's voice snapped. My breath caught as I recognized her. It was one of the nurses from the night shift, someone I thought I could trust. I thought of calling out, pleading for help, but doubt gnawed at me. Had she been part of this all along? I needed to know who was behind this chaos. "They're onto her," the first man said, glancing back toward the door. Panic flickered in his eyes, and suddenly I knew I needed to act. If I didn't get out soon, I might not get another chance. Quietly, I nudged the cabinet door. Creaked, reminding me of the fear I felt earlier. I pushed it open a fraction more, enough to slip through if the moment allowed. I risked a glance at the gathering just outside. The nurse's face was a mask of concern. But to whom? Suddenly, the lights began to flicker again, dancing with uncertainty. That was when the unmistakable voice of the man who had stalked me cut through the room. "She's here. We need to move now." Before I could process his words, I felt the rush of adrenaline propel me, and I stepped out into the open. There was a split second when everything felt suspended in time. I couldn't tell if I would escape or be caught. I sprinted past them, scattering supplies and equipment as I ran. I was painfully aware of their shouts, the chaos growing behind me. Just as I turned a corner, something struck my leg, sending me crashing to the ground. I barely had time to react as darkness began creeping in at the edges of my vision. But that was when I saw it. A piece of paper fluttering on the floor, just out of reach. My heart raced as I reached for it, sensing it was more than a mere scrap. The words stared back at me, promising danger. "You are the key." Maybe they weren't after me for nothing. Maybe I was more entangled in this web than I ever understood. I jolted awake, gasping, my body slick with sweat. For a moment, I thought I was still in that dimly lit hospital corridor. But the sterile smell of antiseptic and panic was gone. I was back in my own hospital room, the beeping machines around me a familiar soundtrack. It was a dream, or was it? I glanced at my leg. The sharp pain reminded me of the fall. My fingers moved instinctively to touch the bruised skin. I couldn't shake the feeling of urgency, of impending danger. I needed answers, but fear held me down. The door clicked open, and my heart sank. It was the nurse, the one I thought I could trust. What if she was involved? "Emily, how are you feeling?" she asked, her voice too sweet, too calm. "Where is everyone?" I asked, fighting to keep the tremor from my voice. She paused for a moment, looking like she was choosing her words carefully. "The doctors are busy with other patients. You had a rough time. We're just making sure you're okay." I narrowed my eyes. "What happened?" "I remember Shu. It's okay. Let us not dwell on that now," she interrupted, a little too quickly. "You just need to rest." I didn't want to rest. I wanted to know why they were after me. "Did you see anyone? A man in a white coat?" Her expression shifted subtly, and in that moment, I felt a shift in my gut. "No, Emily. Just get some sleep." She turned to leave. "Wait," I called, heart racing again. "I need to understand." He said I was the key. Her eyes flickered, and I caught a glimpse of something: fear? Concern? It was gone quickly, replaced by a practiced smile. "You're imagining things. You're safe here." Safe? The word felt hollow. I needed to get out. I swung my legs over the side of the bed, ignoring the protests from my body. As I glanced around the room, I felt like a hunted animal. The wallpaper seemed to close in on me, suffocating and demanding like the corridors outside. The morning light streamed through the window, oddly comforting. But I couldn't shake the sense that danger lurked just outside. I opened a drawer in the bedside table, hoping for something useful. My fingers brushed against various medical supplies until they landed on a small notebook. It was thin and worn, the edges frayed. I flipped it open, scanning the pages filled with hastily written notes. That S when I saw it. A reference to an emergency patient, and a list of names I didn't recognize, interspersed with treatment notes that took bizarre twists. My heart raced as I turned the pages, and I felt dizzy with realization. It wasn't just a hospital, it was a testing ground. Was I a part of some twisted experiment? Suddenly, the door swung open. I turned, heart racing. It wasn't just the nurse this time. Someone else stood there, dark-suited and imposing. The atmosphere shifted. "We need to talk," he said, his voice low and threatening. I took a step back, clutching the notebook protectively to my chest. My mind screamed at me to flee, but the door was directly behind him. I was trapped in the room, the reality of my situation crashing down. I knew then, I couldn't trust anyone, not even the nurse. Everything had just escalated, and I needed a plan. But before I could think, he took a step towards me. "Listen, you're in way over your head," he said, his eyes narrowed, as if trying to gauge my reaction. Was this the beginning of the answers I needed, or a confrontation that would seal my fate? I realized then that escaping this hospital would involve more than just fleeing the room. It was about uncovering the truth and staying alive long enough to do so. I didn't wait for him to make the next move. Adrenaline surged through me as I lunged for the door, my heart pounding. I had to break free to put distance between me and the man in the suit. But he was quicker. He stepped in front of me, blocking my path. "This isn't what you think." His voice was steady, but I could see the tension radiating from him. "You can't leave. Watch me," I replied, finding a defiant edge despite the terror clawing at my insides. I reached for the door handle, but he grabbed my wrist, his grip firm and unyielding. "Listen to me," he said, his face inches from mine. I could see the flashes of urgency in his eyes. "You're in danger. The people you think are trying to help you aren't what they seem." His words ignited a flicker of fear. Part of me was desperate to believe him. "What do you know?" I managed to choke out, straining against his grip. "More than you can understand right now," he said. He glanced over his shoulder, as if worried someone else might come in. "We're running out of time." My body was on high alert, ready to break free, but curiosity kept me rooted in place. "Time for what?" I pressed. His expression darkened. "For you to get out of here before they find you. Trust me, Emily. Not everyone is looking out for your best interests." "I don't even know who you are," I shouted, frustration boiling over. "Why should I trust you?" He sighed, running a hand over his face. Because they come for you. The nurses, the doctors, they're all part of it. I froze at his words. The nurse, the notebook, the patient lists, it made a horrible kind of sense. What's happening? I whispered, shaking my head in disbelief. He released my wrist slowly, his eyes darting toward the door. I'll explain everything, but we need to move. Now. Just then, a commotion erupted in the hallway, voices raised in alarm. The nurse stepped back into view, now flanked by 2 other staff members. Panic shot through me. I was outnumbered. Is there a problem here? The nurse asked, her smile perfectly rehearsed, a mask that couldn't hide the tension in her posture. I could see the dark-suited man weighing his options. He turned slightly, positioning himself protectively in front of me. No problem. We were just discussing my patient, he said smoothly, but I could hear the undertone of threat in his voice. Emily, come back to bed, she demanded, her voice dense with authority. You need rest. I'm not going anywhere with you, I retorted, feeling the weight of the notebook in my hand. I couldn't trust the nurse, but neither could I trust this stranger. I was caught in a web of uncertainty. As my mind raced, the dark-suited man took a step closer to me. Trust me, he whispered urgently, or you'll end up just like the others. That chilling statement sent fear coursing through me once again. I needed to make a choice, and fast. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed down the hall, shattering the tense standoff. I instinctively stepped back, my heart racing even faster. My eyes locked onto the door, my escape route. Before I could think about it any longer, I dashed past him, bolting towards the door. This was my only chance, and I wouldn't let it slip away. The next moment was a blur as I barreled past the nurse and the other staff, adrenaline driving me forward. I burst out into the hallway, my breath coming in ragged gasps. The overhead lights flickered ominously, and the distant sound of chaos beckoned me further down the corridor. But the question loomed large in my mind. Where was I running to? And more importantly, who was truly on my side? I sprinted down the dimly lit hallway, the echo of my footsteps swallowed by the chaotic sounds of shouting and crashing coming from somewhere ahead. My heart was in my throat, pounding with urgency. I couldn't risk looking back. The man in the suit could be right behind me. I made a sharp turn at the next corner and found myself in a different wing of the hospital. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, creating eerie shadows that danced on the walls. It was quiet here, too quiet, and suddenly I felt exposed. No one seemed to be around. Ahead, I spotted a small storage room with a partially open door. It was a risk, but I knew I had to hide. I slipped inside and pressed myself against the far wall, holding my breath. The cool air brushed against my skin, grounding me in that moment, but it was laced with the smell of antiseptic and something less pleasant. I strained to listen, my ears attuned to the sounds outside. The shouts echoed down the corridor, and my instinct was to dart, to stay on the move. But the adrenaline was still coursing through me, and I couldn't help but wonder who would show up next. Would it be the nurse or that man? Was it even safe to trust him? Moments later, the door creaked open just a fraction. I held my breath, my heart pounding in my ears. It was a nurse, but not the one I was familiar with. She stepped inside, glancing around as if searching for something. My heart dropped when her eyes met mine. Emily? She whispered, her voice laced with concern. You need to come back with me. It's not safe for you out here. I shook my head, taking a step back. No, I'm not going anywhere with you. Please, you're making a mistake. They're coming for you. They won't stop until they find you. She sounded desperate, and for a split second, doubt flickered in my mind. What if she was right? But the memory of the other nurse's demeanor haunted me. Who are they? I asked quickly, trying to keep my voice steady. The doctor's her eyes darted behind her, and suddenly fear flashed across her face. You have to trust me. Before I could respond, I heard hurried footsteps approaching. My instinct screamed at me to escape. Without thinking, I pushed past the nurse and bolted out of the storage room. The corridor was empty, and I could hear the chaos intensifying. Had they figured out where I was? I glanced back, but there was no sign of the nurse. I had only seconds to decide my next move. Ahead of me, I saw a door marked staff only. It was a gamble, but it was my only option. I dashed towards it and yanked it open, plunging into a small stairwell. The metal stairs creaked under my weight, and I raced up, desperate to put as much distance between me and that hallway as I could. As I reached the second floor, I hesitated. Where would I go next? Suddenly, I felt the unmistakable sensation of being watched. I turned slowly, and that S when I saw him. The man in the suit stood at the bottom of the stairs, his expression unreadable. "Emily," he said softly, tilting his head. "You shouldn't have run." Panic surged through me. I was trapped. I had nowhere to go. I took a step back, my mind racing. The man in the suit didn't look threatening, but something in his demeanor sent chills down my spine. I could see his eyes scanning the stairwell, assessing his options. I felt cornered, like a rabbit with nowhere to flee. "You don't need to be afraid," he said, his voice so smooth it felt like silk wrapping around my heart. "I'm here to help you." "Help me?" I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. "Why should I trust you?" He smiled, and that only made my stomach churn. "Because they want to do something terrible to you, and I want to stop it." I hesitated, weighing his words in my mind. The panic was still gripping me, but there was something unsettling about his calmness. I glanced back at the door I had just come through. "No, I want to go back." With that, I turned and sprinted up the stairs, desperate to put more distance between him and me. My heart pounded against my ribcage as I pulled on the heavy door to the third floor. The fluorescent lights flickered in the corridor, and I took a moment to catch my breath. I could hear my pulse in my ears, and I scanned the area for any signs of life. The third floor seemed abandoned, just like the rest of the hospital. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being hunted. I crouched low against the wall and tried to think of my next move. Then I heard a faint creaking sound coming from behind me. I turned, heart in my throat, and saw a figure emerge from the shadowy hallway. It was another nurse, but her expression was different, almost frantic. "Emily, there you are," she exclaimed, rushing towards me. "We have to go. Now." "Not again," I muttered, backing away instinctively. "You're not taking me anywhere. Please, listen," she insisted, desperation seeping into her voice. "The doctors are looking for you. They want to experiment on you." Her words set off alarm bells in my head. Was that why I felt like a lab rat? "What do you mean? Experiment?" Before she could answer, the man in the suit appeared at the top of the stairs, a calm resolve in his expression. "You don't know what you're up against, Emily. She's lying to you." "No, I'm not lying," the nurse shouted, panic spilling over. "Yes, the one you can't trust." I stood frozen between them, my instincts yelling at me to run. "Stop," I shouted, frustration boiling over. "Both of you." The man in the suit took a step closer, his eyes narrowing. "If you come with me, I can explain everything. You're in danger here." The nurse shook her head violently. "Don't listen to him. He'll put you in a cage." I felt my mind racing, the weight of their conflicting words pressing down on me. In that moment, I realized I couldn't decipher who to believe. Suddenly, the lights above flickered violently before plunging the entire corridor into darkness. The silence that followed was suffocating. I could feel my breath quicken as I fumbled for my phone, flipping on the flashlight. The beam cut through the thick blackness, illuminating a space scattered with medical supplies. And that S when I heard a low hiss, like the sound of something slithering through the dark. My pulse picked up again as I turned towards the noise, dread creeping up my spine. "Emily, run!" the nurse shouted, breaking through the darkness. But I was already in motion, sprinting back towards the stairwell to escape whatever lurked in the shadows behind me. I bolted down the stairs, the echo of my footsteps bouncing off the cold concrete walls. Adrenaline coursed through my veins, propelling me forward. I didn't look back. I focused on the door at the bottom of the stairwell, my only goal to get through it and outside. But just as I reached the handle, I heard the distinct sound of footsteps behind me. They were heavy, purposeful, and getting closer, My heart dropped into my stomach, and I yanked the door open, spilling out into the dimly lit hallway of the ground floor. I turned left and sprinted down the corridor, my flashlight beam darting across dying paint and peeling linoleum. There had to be an exit somewhere nearby. I glanced over my shoulder, the weight of fear sinking in. Couldn't he let him catch me? Not now. Not when I finally felt a glimmer of hope to escape whatever nightmare had ensnared me. I spotted a set of double doors ahead, leading to the hospital's emergency exit. I pushed myself harder, my legs burning. Just a bit further. In my desperation, I bumped against a cart filled with medical supplies, sending vials and bandages sprawling onto the floor. I didn't stop to help. I couldn't. As I reached the doors, the metal handle felt cool against my palm. I flung them open and plunged into the night air. The hospital parking lot lay before me, but I didn't stop to take in the scene. I made a beeline for my car, parked further down. I could almost taste the freedom. But then I froze. Standing next to my car was the man in the suit, his silhouette stark against the dimly lit street lamps. I stumbled backward, panic flooding my senses. "What are you doing here?" I shouted, but the sound felt small and weak in the vast emptiness. He took a half step forward, his hands raised, palms out. "Just listen to me, Emily. I can help you. You need to trust me." "Trust you?" I spat the words out, disbelief cutting through the fear. "You've been chasing me. How can I trust you?" "I'm not your enemy," he said, his voice steady but urgent. "I know what they've been doing to you, and if you leave now, they'll find you. You'll be in even more danger." Just then, headlights flashed across the lot, spotlighting both of us. I turned, squinting against the glare. A vehicle approached, and I felt a strange mix of relief and dread. My heart raced again when I recognized the car. It was the same one that had tailgated me on my way to the hospital earlier. The man in the suit caught my gaze and nodded slightly, as if he understood my realization. "They're here," he said urgently. "We need to go now." Before I could respond, the menacing vehicle skidded to a stop. The engine roared, and the doors flung open. Two men emerged, their faces obscured in shadows. They weren't here to help. Instinct kicked in. Without thinking, I bolted again, ducking into a narrow alley that branched off from the parking lot. The heart-pounding sound of my footsteps filled the air as I ran deeper into the darkness. But the narrow passage twisted and turned, and suddenly, I was trapped. I glanced behind me, realizing I'd lost sight of my pursuers, but I wasn't safe yet. I leaned against the wall, panting, heart racing. When I saw a figure standing at the far end of the alley, silhouetted against the pale light. I narrowed my eyes, a chill creeping through me. It was the nurse. She was back. "Emily," she called softly, "you have to come with me." This time I hesitated. I had a decision to make. Everything in me screamed to run, to put as much distance between myself and the nurse as possible. But something about her tone drew me closer. She looked desperate, almost pleading. "You don't understand," she continued, urgency threading through her voice. "You're in danger. They're coming for you. We have to get away." "Who's coming for me?" I shot back, trying to sound stronger than I felt. "You're just like them. I can't trust you." She paused, her eyes flickering with emotion. "I swear to you, I'm trying to help. If they find you, you won't make it out alive." Before I could respond, a loud crash echoed from the direction of the parking lot. My heart raced. Was it the man in the suit or the thugs who had chased me? Either way, the moment was slipping away. "Please, Emily," the nurse urged. "We have to go. Now." I glanced back down the alley, my pulse quickening as I heard footsteps approaching. "Okay," I said, the word forced through my dry throat. "Where to?" She gestured toward a door at the far end of the alley. "There's a way into the basement. We can get out through the old stairwell." Every instinct screamed for me to retreat, but I was quickly running out of options. I had already been through hell, and I couldn't let fear dictate my decision this time. Nodding slowly, I followed her, stepping into the shadows. The door creaked open, revealing a narrow staircase spiraling down into darkness. My heart raced. I stepped inside, glancing back only once to see if anyone had noticed. The footsteps from the parking lot were getting closer. The nurse moved quickly ahead of me, her figure partially illuminated by my flashlight. "It's safe down here, I promise," she whispered, glancing around nervously. "But we don't have much time." As we descended, she explained in frantic whispers that the hospital had dark secrets. "There are experiments. People don't leave. You were a patient of interest, they think you know too much." "What do you mean?" I breathed, struggling to keep up. "Just stay quiet," she urged, her eyes darting as we reached the bottom landing. There was a rusted metal door at the end of the hallway. "We can exit through there. Just a few more steps. You need to trust me." I didn't respond. I couldn't form any words. Her urgency seeped into me. But wasn't she just another part of the twisted game? Still, that feeling that I had while at the top of the staircase, a deep sense of danger pushed me forward. The metal door loomed ahead, and as we reached it, I heard voices echoing up the hall above us. The tension in the air thickened like fog. "We can't stay here." I leaned against the door, my resolve faltering. She nodded, and her hand flew to the handle. She turned it, pushing the door open just a crack. A blinding fluorescent light spilled in from the outside, and I winced at the brightness. There was no turning back. With a quick shove, she pushed the door wide enough for us to slip out. We stumbled into a dim alley, the night air hitting my skin like a shockwave. Everything felt surreal, and for a moment, all I could hear was my ragged breathing mixing with the distant sounds of the hospital. "From here we can find a place to hide," the nurse whispered urgently. But her words were cut off by a loud crash echoing from the door behind us. Panic ignited inside me. The pursuit was still on. "Run!" I yelled, urging her forward. We bolted down the alleyway, weaving through cluttered darkness, racing against the unseen threat behind us. "Keep going," she shouted as she glanced back, and for a brief moment, I mirrored her actions. My heart sank as I caught the glint of movement, a figure rushing through the doorway we'd just escaped. It was then I realized the extent of my nightmare. It wasn't just the man in the suit or those who had chased me. They were coming for anyone they thought had crossed their path. We reached the end of the alley, skidding to a halt. A street stretched ahead, the flickering lights barely illuminating the pavement. Somewhere beyond that, freedom lay just out of reach. "Which way?" I gasped, looking at her, the adrenaline surge already diminishing into uncertainty. I don't know," she admitted, her voice trembling like my hands. "But we need to move before they find us." Part of me wanted to believe her, but another voice whispered trepidation. Would trusting her truly take me to safety? The questions swirled through my mind, but before I could voice my doubt, I heard footsteps echoing from behind us in the alley. "Emily!" A voice called. It was the nameless man in the suit. "You don't know what you're doing. They're not just coming after you. This affects everyone here." In that moment, I felt paralyzed. Was I running towards safety? Or was I only digging myself deeper into this nightmare? But, amidst the panic, reality hit hard. Maybe I didn't know what was truly happening, who was on what side. But one thing remained constant: I wouldn't let my fear paralyze me any longer. "Follow me," I shouted to the nurse. No more hesitation. Whatever lay ahead, I had to keep moving. I turned on my heel and sprinted into the street, not looking back, holding on to the shred of hope that freedom awaited. But the uncertainty weighed heavy in the pit of my stomach. Would I ever truly escape? Or was this just the beginning of something far more sinister? Some questions don't have clear answers, and sometimes, the truth lies buried beneath layers of darkness. I didn't know what awaited me beyond the next turn, and I couldn't shake that ominous feeling that the chase was far from over.